Good morning, everybody. I hope you're all well. Unfortunately for you, you've got a double dose of me today. So, this video is our sermon part of worship this Sunday on our YouTube channel. I hope you enjoyed the all age video, and I wanted to continue down the same theme of the story of Jesus walking on the water. And if you want to read it, it's in the Bible in Matthew chapter 14, verses 22 to 33. I'm sure it's a story many of you are familiar with, but if not, pause the video, have a look at it, and see what you can glean from that passage. And because I wanted to share some thoughts with you around what my interpretation of that story for us today, because it's very relevant, the message that's in there for me and for you in these current times. And the first thing that I notice in this story, right at the very beginning, is that Jesus makes a conscious decision to spend some time on his own, to retreat away from the busyness of life and spend some time with God in a solitary place. Now, Jesus had just fed the 5,000 plus crowd with the loaves and the fish, and it would have been a really busy time for him. He got all these people wanting to talk to him, wanting to ask him questions. And so he says to his closest friends, I'm going to dismiss this crowd, but you go as well. Go ahead of me, go into the boat, and I'll come when I'm ready. And so Jesus needed that time away from all the busyness to spend some time with God. How much more do we need it? If Jesus needed it, we desperately need that time on our own in a solitary place with God in prayer to get that spiritual rest, to get that spiritual nourishment that we so very desperately need. And so please today find that time to spend time with God in that way. The second thing I notice is the obedience of the disciples. Jesus told them to go out on a boat, so they did, despite the conditions. The waves would have been high, the wind, it says, was strong, and it says the boat was being blown away further into the lake, further away from land. So the conditions were bad, and they still obeyed Jesus. And it says in the passage that Jesus didn't go out to them till nearly dawn. So they would have been there all night waiting for Jesus to come to them. And that is obedience, isn't it? Because if it was me, it would have got to about 10 o'clock and I would have thought, come on now, let's get this boat in. It's past my bedtime. But they are still obedient to Jesus. I wonder what Jesus is asking us to do. I wonder if he's calling us to do something in our lives. Maybe it seems difficult. Maybe it seems tiring and hard work. Maybe it makes us feel uncomfortable. But like the disciples, let us be obedient to Jesus today. Now, the main essence of my message is one about the state of mind of the disciples at this time. They're on this boat, they were tired, it was hard work fighting the wind and the waves. And then they have this figure coming towards them on the water. They thought it was a ghost. And Matthew says in that passage that they were afraid. Now, this is where the main message of my sermon is today, is fear. The disciples were in a state of fear. And when Matthew is writing this gospel, the early church, the Christians he's writing to, were in a state of fear. They were fearing for their lives because they were being persecuted for believing in Jesus. They were being killed and slaughtered for following Christ. Now, this is obviously not happening in our day and age, but I think many people in our society right now are in a state of fear. Fear has gripped them because of this virus, because of COVID, and people are afraid to catch it. People are afraid to go out. People are afraid to go places. And it's a really difficult time. And it's a really difficult place to be in when you're that afraid of something so strong in your life. Now, we are afraid of many other things, aren't we? I know Sharon used to be afraid of squirrels till she had therapy. Many people are afraid of spiders, aren't they? And lots of different things. People, I'm told, are even afraid of Wayne's Mr. Snake. But fear is something that grips us and is quite difficult to let go of when it's got hold of us. My fear, my genuine heartfelt fear, is not being able to provide for my family, not being able to pay my bills and keep them safe. Now, people fear many different things. People fear things to do with health and death. People fear the difficult situations that they might face. People fear the unknown, what the future holds and what might be ahead of them can have a daunting proposition. Fear can overwhelm us. And in this situation, the disciples were afraid. And the words of Jesus in that passage are so poignant. He says, "Don't be afraid. Take courage. It's me." That's what he says to his disciples in this passage. I wonder if he is saying that to me and to you today. In the middle of this pandemic, with COVID-19 around and the virus causing lots of fear and panic, I wonder if Jesus is saying, don't be afraid. I'm here. Take courage. I'm in control. I'll look after you. I wonder if those words are for him today. I wonder if they're for me and for you in whatever other circumstance of fear we are finding right now, whether it is health, whether it is the future. Jesus is there in control, and if we put our trust in him, he will help us and look after us. And that leads us on to the next part of the story, isn't it? Peter says to Jesus, "If it is you, Lord, tell me to come to you on the water." And Peter puts his trust in Jesus and steps out of the boat and sees a wonderful miracle happen. He starts walking on water. He sees the power and the care of Jesus at work in his life. And when we put our trust in Jesus, we see the power and the care of God at work in our lives too. Now, sometimes we have to take these leaps of faith. I wonder if anybody has ever taken a leap of faith. This time last year, I was in Canada, and me and Jessica did a zip wire over Niagara Falls. Now, I took a leap of faith because I literally stepped out into thin air, and the only thing that was holding me was this rope above this huge expanse of water. I wonder if you've ever done anything similar. But Peter took a leap of faith to get out of the boat and trust Jesus. What is God asking us to trust him for today? I wonder if he's asking us to take a leap of faith in doing something for him. Now, sometimes people can get this all wrong. They do silly things, they make rash decisions, they jump in two-footed like a bull in a china shop into doing something and saying they were doing it out of trust in Jesus and believing in God for it and believing in him for a miracle. In our passage, Peter waits for Jesus to call him. He doesn't jump blind. He doesn't go out of the boat without having an inkling that something is in the fire here. He waits for Jesus to call him. Now, I don't believe in just jumping gung-ho into things. I think we've got to open our eyes and wait to see where Jesus might be guiding us, to give him a chance to show us the way, and then we take the step of faith into what we think is the right plan that Jesus is showing us. We did the same with our house move. We weren't sure it was the right thing, but we put a fleece out and said, God, okay, we'll put the house up for sale to see if it is the right thing. And Jesus made it happen. That got sold in 6 days. We found a house 2 days later, and we're just waiting for all the paperwork to be sorted. But we waited for God to guide us in the right direction first. We got to open our eyes to maybe see what God is pushing us into doing. Wait for his call before we take that step of faith. And you know what? It can seem very daunting, can't it? Like me stepping out into thin air, Peter stepping out to walk on water. But when we step out, God backs it up. We might see a miracle happen. We see his power and his care at work. And sometimes it can be something really difficult, really hard, something that we feel we can't do. And when we're in that situation too, it can still seem like it's going to overwhelm us and cause us to crumble. And that's what happened with Peter. He looked at the wind and the waves around him and started to sink. He took his focus off of Jesus. Now, when we've taken that step of faith, it's important that we keep our eyes fixed on him, that we keep trusting, that we keep believing, for he would back it up. He delivers when we believe in him. Today, as a church, I wonder what position we're in. You see, I think if we stay in the boat, if we stay put, the storm will eventually get us. The storm and the wind will blow us away further and further away from land. We need to be a bit more like Peter, to take these steps of faith, to take a leap into what Jesus is asking us to do, and trusting in him that he will make it happen and we will see miracles at work. So let's not stay in the boat. Let's not stay where it's comfy, where it might be less difficult. Let us get out onto the water and trust in Jesus. So today, where has fear gripped you? What are you afraid of? Listen to the words of Jesus. I'm in charge. I'm in control. Don't be afraid. Let us trust in him when we take these steps of faith. Let's look for his guidance in what he wants us to do, and then believe in him for miracles, for great things, for his power and his care in those situations. Let us not stay comfy, but let us trust in him and be obedient to what he is calling us to do. Take care, everybody. God bless, and I'll see you again soon.